Hello and welcome everybody. Lately, the Steam Winter Sale emboldened me to spend $5 on an open world shooter I had my eyes on for quite a while. And what can I say, 50 hours of game time later, I think that have been $5 well spent. Now because this is not a super polished AAA title and definitely has its quirks and special charm you either click with or not, I will approach this small review a little different, with the central question being why you might want to play it, although others consider it to be the ugly sister of Far Cry and Ghost Recon. Mentioning the Far Cry and Ghost Recon series as a popular reference point sometimes in this review to give you a general idea how this game feels and plays. We are speaking about an open world shooter here that borrows from aforementioned franchises and throws in a good mix of DayZ feeling in regard of scavenging for resources and inventory management. Some technical details first. It runs smoothly, the open world is huge and the engine looks fantastic, especially the lighting. They use a slightly washed out color palette that fits the overall setting. I did not encounter any bugs or crashes during my playtime. And what is really cool, the world changes with weather effects. Areas become snow covered after it starts to snow, for example. That is really cool and adds to the overall feeling of being immersed into the world. The music that is there fits perfectly the 80s style and vibe of the game. And honestly, the sound design for guns and explosions is one of the best I ever experienced. But hear for yourself. So the game plays in the 80s in Sweden. That's what I call an exotic setting these days. And you are stranded and lost after an explosion and you have no freaking clue what's going on. And this feeling of being overwhelmed, outpowered and at a loss what's really going on will stay with you for the entire game. Welcome to reason number 1 why this is a cool game despite its quirks. The story is fragmented and leaves you guessing what's behind all this most of the time, and you can clearly feel that they implemented the tutorial narrative at a later stage, because there you encounter an NPC that holds it all together for you, and that NPC simply vanishes after you leave the starter island. But if I should describe one feature, why the heck I played the hell out of this game and could barely put it down, it is because the game constantly reminds you that you are not the biggest fish around, are more prey than hunter, and keeps you scratching your head what this is all about. Non-spoon-fed and fragmented story that keeps you guessing? Check. Stocking up on ammunition and first aid kits, only to run into a couple of hunter robots that bleed your resources dry? Check. Getting into firefights that feel like a goddamn war zone with massive robots fighting each other and you while receiving constant artillery and gas attacks for staying too long in one place? Double check. You are not the powerful waste-laying mayhem like in the more arcadey Far Cry series or the stealthy super soldier that gets shredded once you are discovered like in the Ghost Recon franchise. You are a fish out of the water, trying to survive and figuring out what is going on. So your gameplay loop evolves around scavenging the locations, stocking up and crafting resources like ammunition and first aid kits on one hand, exploring the world and getting your backside handed to you in firefights on the other hand. You do have 3 difficulty settings that you can adjust anytime while playing. And don't get me wrong, you will grow more powerful and there are skill trees that provide you with some nice power-ups and features, but don't expect any flashy skills. This is a more realistic and grounded feeling shooter experience with very good gunplay, by the way, and reasonable reload and weapon swap times or the time-consuming necessity to swap to a first aid kit before using it and then swapping back to your weapon while in the middle of a firefight might turn off some people. It fits the overall more realistic approach of this game. You either like or dislike the game for doing that. You do have a basic stealth system that is not very sophisticated but works, and you get a lot of tools to distract enemies because in open firefights you are quickly outgunned. So if you don't like scavenging, stocking up and managing your inventory weight, this game is not for you. But if you like this DayZ survival-like feeling in an open world shooter that sits closer to the Ghost Recon series without teammates than a Far Cry experience, then you are in for a treat. Speaking about teammates, this game provides a nice co-op function and it's great fun to play with friends, although I prefer to play solo and did so for my first playthrough. Another thing that might be considered strange but somehow fits the game: the enemy AI behavior. The robots have this 80s not perfect, still experimental feeling. Means their behavior is clearly tied to their weapon loadout, but also grants you a lot of opportunity windows by standing around and rebooting their outdated operating system, since they are all running on Windows XP. If they would not behave like this, they would just shred through you, because often enough you fight against whole packs of robots. Which leads me to some fair criticism of the game. The overall enemy variety is okay. You will encounter some base models that come with different weapon loadouts and color schemes that reflect their overall difficulty, from basic to apocalypse models. And the asset variety is also a little limited. It suffers definitely from feeling repetitive, like Ghost Recon Breakpoint for example. Bunkers are cool, but they all look the same and you will spend quite some time exploring them. So as good as the open world looks, feels and sounds, the game shows its limits in terms of enemy variety and game assets. But then it is nearly always on sale for $5 and its full price is 25 euros or equivalent in your region. There are some pretty cheap DLCs, the weapon packs come in handy in the early game, but in the late game I found myself switching to the vanilla weapons, so they are not mandatory. And the first story DLC, Alpine Unrest, is definitely worth it if you enjoyed the base game. But don't be afraid to lower the difficulty there, otherwise the enemies become too bullet spongy when playing alone. I hope this quick review helped you understanding what to expect from Generation Zero. The game is currently part of the Steam Winter Sale and well worth your time in my opinion. If you like this special mix of an open world shooter, I would call it a rough diamond overall. That is all for now about Generation Zero. Take good care of yourself and enjoy your gaming sessions.